Every footstep on a studio backlot echoes over a grave. From Thelma Todd, found in a sealed garage, still wearing last night's velvet, to George Reeves lying bullet-quiet in Superman's cape. Tinseltown's brightest have vanished under circumstances stranger than fiction. Our documentary unspools 101 such finales, dissecting conflicting autopsies, missing diaries, and evidence that migrated with hush money. Turn down the lights. The real mystery movie is about to begin right now. 1. Thelma Todd, 1906 to 1935. Comedy's Ice Cream Blonde was found slumped in her Packard inside a friend's hillside garage, lungs full of carbon monoxide. The coroner ruled accidental death, yet no one explained why she wore evening clothes from 2 nights earlier, or how her keys vanished. Whispered motives ranged from mob extortion to a jealous lover, but grand jury testimony fizzled. Todd's case remains officially closed, eternally inviting speculation about who, if anyone, locked that garage door. 2. Thomas H. Ince, 1880 to 1924. The pioneering producer boarded William Randolph Hearst's yacht for a birthday jaunt. Days later, his body left a San Diego mortuary, bearing a rushed death certificate citing heart failure. Hollywood insiders muttered that Hearst fired a pistol meant for Charles Chaplin, mistaking Ince in the dark. Others insisted the ailing mogul simply suffered acute indigestion. With witnesses paid off in studio stock, the mystery of who shot Mr. Ince drifted into legend. 3. Olive Thomas, 1894 to 1920. Flapper icon Olive Thomas collapsed in a Paris hotel after gulping husband Jack Pickford's mercury bichloride tonic for syphilis. French police labeled it accidental poisoning, yet American newspapers screamed suicide. Pickford's erratic testimony, he'd either been asleep, in another room, or downstairs, fueled rumors of marital strife and murderous intent. Studio brass rushed to whitewash reports, but Thomas's ghostly blue eyes on nitrate film still haunt reels labeled "Do Not Project." 4. Rudolf Valentino, 1995 až 1926. Silent cinema's Latin lover fainted at New York's Hotel Ambassador and never recovered. Surgeons blamed perforated ulcers that spiraled into sepsis. Fans sobbed, but conspiracy buffs suggested deliberate poisoning by a spurned lover or Italian nationalist. Embalmed twice to survive a coast-to-coast funeral tour, Valentino's body revealed no toxins, only the fragility behind his bronzed image. Still, the sight of black-veiled mourners kept talk of a fatal love potion alive. 5e Wallace Reid, 1891 à 1923. A matinee idol injured in a 1919 train wreck, Reid received morphine from studio doctors desperate to keep production rolling. Addiction followed. 4 years and countless secret injections later, he died in a sanitarium at 31. Studios called it nervous exhaustion, but Reid's widow testified before Congress about on-set drugging. His fate spotlighted a system willing to medicate stars into profit, raising the chilling question of complicity rather than simple tragedy. 6. Virginia Rappe, 1891 to 1921. Partygoers hauled silent film ingenue Virginia Rappe from Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle's hotel suite after a wild Labor Day bash. She died of a ruptured bladder 4 days later. Prosecutors alleged Arbuckle crushed her during assault, while defense experts blamed chronic cystitis. 3 sensational trials ended in acquittal, yet Rappe's reputation lay in tatters. The medical dispute, trauma versus disease, has never been conclusively settled, etching her demise as Hollywood's first true scandal. 7. Paul Byrne, 1889–1322. MGM producer and new husband to Jean Harlow was found shot through the head in his Benedict Canyon mansion, a typed note calling himself a failure. Police quickly deemed it suicide, but rumors that Byrne's common-law wife, Dorothy Millette, visited that night, and sailed off to her own watery death days later, spawned homicide theories. Studio fixer Eddie Mannix choreographed press releases, and with evidence disappearing, Byrne's last fade-out remains maddeningly ambiguous. 8. Jean Harlow, 1911 to 1937. At 26, the platinum superstar suddenly ballooned with fluid, breath shallow, skin gray. Doctors diagnosed acute kidney failure, but fans whispered toxic hair bleach or an untreated abortion. Harlow's devout Christian Science mother initially refused hospitalization, delaying care crucial hours. While autopsy confirmed streptococcal infection spreading to scarred kidneys, the delay argument endures. Did parental faith, not medical limits, doom one of MGM's brightest? The debate echoes louder than her sultry laugh, woodland sign, and leapt to her death. Press called it a cautionary tale of dashed dreams, yet Entwistle had just tested for David O. Selznick. A letter of potential stardom arrived after she died, suggesting timing more tragic than hopeless. Her suicide note, mentioning fear and failure, left room for speculation about depression, sexuality, and the unforgiving studio casting grind. 10. Carol Landis, 1919 to 1948. Bombshell pinup. Carol Landis hosted a candlelit supper with married actor Rex Harrison, then swallowed seconal tablets in her Pacific Palisades home. Harrison discovered the body, but waited hours to summon help, later claiming panic. The coroner ruled suicide, yet missing diary pages and conflicting witness timelines feed rumors of a forced silence to protect Harrison's career. The unanswered phone beside Landis still symbolizes a call for truth that never connected. 11. Carol Lombard, 1908 to 1942. After selling war bonds in Indianapolis, screwball queen Carol Lombard boarded TWA Flight 3. The DC-3 slammed into Mount Potosi, Nevada, killing all 42 aboard. Official cause, navigation error from a missing directional beacon. Still, wartime gossip hinted at Axis sabotage or a bomb aimed at her husband, Clark Gable, then filming a propaganda short. Investigators found no explosive residue, but the wreckage's inaccessibility left enough uncertainty for conspiracies to germinate. 12. Leslie Howard, 1893 to 1943. Gone. With the winds, Ashley disappeared when BOAC Flight 777 was shot down by German fighters over the Bay of Biscay. Ministry insiders believed the Nazis mistook him for Churchill. Others claimed Howard was a real-life spy, returning from clandestine talks in Lisbon. British intelligence declassified No Smoking Gun, yet his passenger list included shadowy diplomats. Howard's body was never recovered, turning a routine wartime casualty into one of cinema's aerial enigmas. 13th. George Reeves, 1914 to 1959. Television's Superman was discovered in his Beverly Hills bedroom with a Luger fatality and no fingerprints. Police accepted suicide, citing career frustration, but missed bruises and shell casings later raised eyebrows. Lovers Leonore Lemon and Tony Mannix traded barbed statements, and a private eye alleged mob enforcer Eddie Mannix ordered a hit. Ballistic inconsistencies and vanished evidence prevent closure, leaving Reeves forever caught between scripted heroics and off-screen vulnerability. 14. Marilyn Monroe, 1926 to 1962. Found nude in bed clutching a telephone, Monroe died from acute barbiturate poisoning. The LAPD concluded probable suicide, yet a timeline gap. Housekeeper Eunice Murray washed sheets before police arrived, spurred talk of staged death. Kennedy entanglements, FBI files, and an untranscribed last psychiatrist tape keep investigators busy. Toxicology showed no needle marks, but absence of gastric staining for capsules clouds certainty. Monroe remains Hollywood's most analyzed and least resolved fatal icon. 15. Natalie Wood, 1938 to 1981. A weekend cruise aboard the yacht, Splendor, ended with Wood's body floating near Catalina, bruised and clad in a flannel nightgown. The original accidental drowning verdict shifted to drowning and other undetermined factors when Captain Dennis Davern recanted, implicating husband Robert Wagner after a heated argument. Wagner denies involvement, and prosecutors cite insufficient evidence. Key questions: why she tried to board a dinghy, how far she drifted, keep the case lapping against legal shores. 16. Robert Walker, 1918 to 1951. Fresh from filming Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, Walker suffered a nervous episode at home. His psychiatrist injected sodium amytal to sedate him. Minutes later, the actor ceased breathing. Officially, a reaction to sedative. Gossip claimed studio pressure to medicate swiftly, or even malicious intent from ex-wife Jennifer Jones's camp. No autopsy followed, enabling theories of overdose, alcohol interaction, or medical negligence. Hollywood lost a promising villain to a dose measured in guesswork. 17. Barbara Lamar, 1896 to 1926. Touted as the girl who is too beautiful, Lamar shot 5 films in a year, fueled by morphine and champagne. Collapsing on the White Moth set, she died of tubercular nephritis, complicated by drug abuse. Rumors of a secret childbirth, a vindictive ex-husband, and studio stimulants dogged her obituary. While medical files confirm kidney failure, the speed of her rise and demise fed narratives of beauty, literally burning itself out. 18. Lupe Vélez, 1908 a 1944. The Mexican Spitfire supposedly planned a glamorous suicide atop silk pillows, but choked on her own vomit after overdosing on Seconal. Tabloids mocked the toilet death, though coroner photos place her on the floor. Pregnant and unmarried to Austrian actor Harold Ramond, Vélez faced career-killing scandal under the production code. Whether shame, depression, or an aborted reconciliation drove her actions, the indignity of the gossip often overshadows the pressures she endured. 19th. Florence Lawrence, 1886 to 1938. Cinema's first named star ingested ant paste in her Beverly Hills apartment, leaving a cryptic note asking forgiveness. Years of chronic pain after on-set stunts and dwindling roles preceded her act. Friends insisted she fought a secret nerve disease. Others blamed a recent business failure. Police found no foul play, yet missing pages from her diary suggest a longer struggle. Lawrence's forgotten grave became a rallying point for better stunt safety decades later. Dvadziati. Max Linder, 1875. The French comic who mentored Chaplin married 18-year-old Elaine Peters and twice attempted a murder-suicide pact. The second try succeeded with veronal and self-inflicted cuts at a Paris hotel. Medical evidence indicated Linder died hours after Peters, raising the possibility he watched her agony before finishing the deed. Family hinted at PTSD from World War I gas attacks, while tabloids called it an obsession with Romeo and Juliet immortality. Motive remains as fractured as his final scripts. 21. Albert Decker, 1905 to 1968. Character actor Decker was found naked, kneeling in his Hollywood bathroom. Noose loosely around neck, wrists bound, body covered in obscene lipstick slogans. Police ruled accidental erotic asphyxiation, yet valuables were missing and fingerprints wiped. Fiancée Geraldine Saunders discovered the scene but couldn't explain the meticulously knotted ropes. Decker's outspoken politics and investigation into union corruption prompt some biographers to suspect staged murder. But without suspects, the bizarre tableau remains unsolved. 22. Sharon Tate, 1943 to 1969. 8 months pregnant Tate was stabbed 16 times in her Benedict Canyon home by Charles Manson's followers. Prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi framed it as helter-skelter, a race war prophecy, yet alternate theories posit a drug debt hit, or Manson seeking revenge on music producer Terry Melcher. While perpetrators confessed, motives stay debated. Tate's slaughter symbolized Hollywood's end of the 60s innocence and seeded endless speculation on whether a misaddressed vendetta or apocalyptic cult truly orchestrated the bloodbath. 23. Linda Darnell, 1923 to 1965. Best Supporting Oscar nominee Darnell died of burns when a house fire ravaged her former secretary's Chicago suburb home. The blaze ignited after a late-night rerun of her film Stardust, ironically about dream chasing. Fire marshals cited careless smoking, but Darnell's sister claimed faulty wiring and an insurance motive. With rooms gutted beyond reconstruction, cause stayed undetermined. Hollywood emphasized cigarette warnings, yet quietly questioned whether the actress relived her screen roles too literally. 24. Gig Young, 1913–2078. Hours after marrying German actress Kim Schmidt, Young shot her, then himself in their Manhattan apartment. Police labeled it murder-suicide, discovering barbiturates and alcohol in his blood. Friends noted recent mood swings linked to chronic painkillers, while skeptics wondered about an unknown third party. The door was reportedly locked from inside, yet a neighbor heard two male voices. No fingerprints on the weapon, but Young's were released, keeping doors ajar for alternative narratives. 25. Dorothy Dandridge, 1922 to 1965. First black woman nominated for Best Actress. Dandridge was found on her bathroom floor, police attributing death to antidepressant overdose. Autopsy also revealed a rare embolism from a stress-weakened foot fracture, muddying immediate cause. Financial ruin, stalled roles, and custody battles offered motive for suicide, but some biographers argue accidental misdosing combined with vascular failure. Whatever the mechanism, Dandridge's demise starkly illustrated Hollywood's habit of lauding pioneers, then leaving them unsupported. 26. William Desmond Taylor, 1872 and 1922. The celebrated director was discovered sprawled on his Los Angeles floor with a single back-entry bullet, wallet untouched, script notes scattered. Suspects ranged from jealous ingenue Mary Miles Minter to drug-peddling gangsters he'd tried to expose. Yet the LAPD misfiled fingerprints and allowed crowds to trample the scene. A century later, studio hush-ups and vanished diaries keep the crime Hollywood's longest-running whodunit, and the killer's silhouette lingers behind every clapperboard. 27. Jane Mansfield, 1933 to 1967. Mansfield's Buick slammed under a stopped tractor-trailer on a Louisiana highway, scalping its roof and spawning myths she was decapitated. Autopsy proved otherwise, but why the driver ignored dense mosquito fog remains murky. Was it fatigue, tampered brakes, or, per rumor mongers, a mob warning to attorney boyfriend Sam Brody? Officially an accident, the crash birthed modern underride bars. Yet Mansfield's last headline is still half crash report, half cautionary campfire story. 28th. John Gilbert, 1897 to 1936. The great lover of silent screens died at 38 from a heart attack after years of whiskey breakfasts. Devotees, though, blame MGM titan Louis B. Mayer, who allegedly sabotaged Gilbert's talkie debut by ordering distorted audio levels. Humiliation triggered a lethal bender, they say. Mayer denied it, but gossip persisted. The coroner saw only damaged arteries, while film buffs see murder by microphone, proof that a studio feud can be fatal. 29th. Marie Prevost, 1896 to 1937. Once a bathing beauty darling, Prevost was found days after her death, stomach empty, liquor bottles ringed around her bed. Tabloids exaggerated that her dachshund gnawed her body, a grisly detail later debunked. The real horror lay in chronic malnutrition from crash diets and stalled casting calls. Hollywood's relentless focus on youth pushed Prevost to starvation wages, and then starvation itself, reminding audiences how quickly a flapper fringe could unravel. Tyrone Power, 1914-1958. Filming Solomon and Sheba in sweltering Madrid, Power collapsed mid-sword duel and died en route to hospital. The studio cited congenital heart failure, yet colleagues whispered about amphetamine pep pills powering his exhausting schedule and crash diets that peeled pounds for camera angles. Spanish medics noted abnormal adrenaline spikes, but preserved no samples. Recast scenes erased his final moments, making the truth vanish like a dissolve between takes. 31. Veronica Lake, 1922 to 1973. Her peekaboo bang once stopped traffic. 3 decades later, she died nearly unrecognized of acute hepatitis in a Vermont hospital. Years of hidden alcoholism and poverty in second-rate stage tours left her liver shredded. Admirers suspect doctors misdiagnosed an autoimmune disorder, arguing her yellowed skin predated heavy drinking. But no autopsy followed. Lake's demise proves old Hollywood magic can evaporate so completely that legends fade before their reel does. 32. Errol Flynn, 1909 to 1959. The swashbuckler keeled over in a Vancouver penthouse after an evening of oysters and cocaine-laced champagne. The coroner called it myocardial infarction, noting Flynn's 50-year-old heart resembled that of an 85-year-old. Conspiracy buffs point to a suitcase of unpublished memoirs allegedly detailing underage affairs, speculating that blackmail stress hastened the attack. The manuscript vanished, and Flynn sailed into eternity on rumors fit for a pirate king. 33rd. Judy Garland, 1922 to 1969. Found on a London bathroom floor, Garland had ingested lethal seconal levels, but whether intentional remains fuzzy. Prescription logs show a chaotic dance between multiple physicians, each unaware of the other's dosages. Friends recalled optimism about a new concert tour. Others saw exhaustion and unpaid IRS bills. The blurred line between medical oversight and self-harm means Dorothy's final journey was less yellow brick road than pharmaceutical minefield. 34. Bela Lugosi, 1882-56. Dracula died in a Los Angeles apartment, clutching the very cape that made him immortal. Cause: heart attack worsened by chronic morphine use for leg pain. Skeptics claim Lugosi was on government-supplied methadone and mixed dosages, hinting at VA hospital negligence. With addiction notes sealed under privacy laws, no definitive source of the fatal strain exists, leaving only the eerie image of Hollywood's vampire succumbing to an unseen stake. 35. Ramon Novarro, 1899-1968. Two hustler brothers tied up and tortured Novarro in search of a rumored fortune hidden in his Beverly Hills mansion, cash that proved mythical. Police leaked salacious diary pages, clouding jury sympathy and fueling tabloid myth. Trial blunders downgraded murder to manslaughter, provoking talk of whitewashed homophobia. The silver screen Ben-Hur survived chariot crashes, only to be undone by whispers of treasure that never existed. 36th Salmoneo, 1939 to 1976. Knife thrust to the heart in a West Hollywood alley ended Mineo's comeback dreams. Initial theories claimed a lover's quarrel or hate crime. A drifter arrested 2 years later insisted it was random robbery. Friends doubt the match. Mineo's wallet lay untouched, and point to a missing audition tape he carried that night. The conviction stands, but the motive feels rehearsed, like a script missing its last rewrite. 37. Bobby Driscoll, 1937 to 1968. Disney's original Peter Pan died alone in an East Village flophouse, pockets empty except religious pamphlets. His body went unclaimed, buried in Potter's Field. Identification came a year later through fingerprints matched at parents' request. Coroners blamed arteriosclerosis from heroin, yet toxicology was never archived. The boy who never grew up became the man no one noticed, raising haunting questions about child star discard piles. 38th. Inger Stevens, 1934 to 1970. Housekeeper found Stevens on her kitchen floor, mouth blue from barbiturates. Declared suicide, the case turned when actor Ike Jones revealed he'd been her secret husband for 9 years, hidden to protect her career from interracial backlash. Friends describe Stevens as buoyant days earlier, and missing phone records suggest a frantic late-night call. Whether societal pressures or personal despair tipped the bottle remains a debate as shadowed as their marriage certificate. 39th. George Sanders, 1906 to 1972. Leaving a curt note, "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored." Sanders overdosed on Nembutal in a Catalonian hotel. Yet diaries showed plans for a new film, and toxicologists noted alcohol levels suspiciously low for a man drinking daily. Some biographers suspect accidental overdose during routine self-medication for nerve pain. The question lingers: was it existential exit, or an Englishman's elegance masking miscalculation? 40. James Dean, 1931 to 1955. Dean's Porsche 550 Spider smashed head-on into a Ford sedan, killing him instantly. Mechanics insist a faulty transaxle made the car swerve. Others blame Dean's speed and a sun-blinded driver. Pieces of the wreck later injured would-be collectors, spawning the little bastard curse. Highway patrol campaigns used Dean's fate as cautionary tale, but the crash's trigger, machine flaw, road glare, or recklessness, remains as elusive as Dean's unfinished legend. 41. Grace Kelly, 1929 to 1982. While driving a winding Monaco cliff road, Princess Grace's Rover plummeted 120 feet. Doctors cited a stroke at the wheel. Daughter Stephanie, the passenger, remembered brake failure. Royal staff removed the car before outside forensics arrived, and French gendarmes deferred to palace physicians. Without a full mechanical audit, debates over mechanical fault versus medical emergency steer on, like a ghost car rounding that fatal bend. 42. Bruce Lee, 1940 to 1973. Lee collapsed in actress Betty Ting Pei's flat after taking Equagesic for a headache. Autopsy showed cerebral edema, but no single trigger. Theories bloom: allergic reaction to muscle relaxant, triad assassination for refusing protection money, even delayed death touch from a sparring rival. Hong Kong inquest deemed it death by misadventure, yet sealed police files feed kung fu-sized speculation that the dragon was felled by more than aspirin. Witnesses later described only a penknife and a broken glass jar. Jurors accepted Stiltz's story within minutes, sparking whispers of small-town bias. Switzer's faded stardom couldn't buy a fuller probe, and the bark of truth may have died with the dog. 45th. Barbara Payton, 1927 to 1967. Once earning $10,000 a week, Payton expired in a flophouse at 39, liver pickled, face unrecognizable. Friends allege a savage beating months earlier hastened her organ failure. Police filed no assault report. Payton penned a tell-all alleging studio-sanctioned prostitution rings, then claimed she fictionalized to pay rent. Whether drink alone killed her, or secrets that proved too expensive to keep, her trajectory stands as Hollywood noir without a Hollywood ending. 46. Laird Cregar, 1913 to 1944. The character actor shed 100 pounds in months via thyroid pills and crash diets, aiming for leading man roles. Abdominal pains turned fatal when his aorta ruptured during Christmas surgery. Doctors blamed the stress of rapid weight loss. Colleagues whispered about unregulated amphetamines from a backlot physician. Cregar's final film, Hangover Square, premiered weeks later. His gaunt face, a post-mortem critique of body image pressures no studio publicity man could spin. 47. Jean Seberg, 1938 to 1979. Found in her Renault with pills and a blanket, Seberg's body lay 9 days in Paris heat. Officially suicide, but declassified FBI files revealed years of covert harassment for funding Black Panther causes, including planting false pregnancy rumors. Friends recall cynical jokes about dying like Marilyn, yet they question why toxicology showed only trace barbiturates, inconsistent with the pill count. The film icon of Breathless suffocated under political crossfire. 48th. William Holden, 1918 to 1981. Holden bled to death alone after tripping over a bedside table and gashing his head on a Malibu apartment nightstand. Police found a half-finished bottle of vodka and blood trail attempts at self-bandaging. Skeptics note no fingerprint dusting on the rewound VCR, claiming a guest left unseen. Coroner concluded accidental exsanguination, but unanswered calls logged to an unidentified number still tease an unseen third act. 49th. Charles Boyer, 1899 to 1978. 2 days after his wife of 44 years died of cancer, Boyer sealed himself in a Phoenix bedroom and swallowed Seconal. Some friends insist the marriage had soured, and Boyer followed a pre-arranged pact. Others point to undisclosed pancreatic pain and fear of lingering illness. Without a note, motives rest on romantic legend or unreported agony. The actor's final close-up withheld behind closed drapes. 50. John Bowers, 1885 to 1936. Box office idol, turned has-been, rented a small sailboat, walked into the Pacific near Santa Monica, and disappeared. His body washed ashore days later. Rumor claims he'd visited the A Star is Born set, realized the fading idol plot mirrored his life, and chose an ocean exit. Coast Guard logs, however, cite storm warnings he ignored. Suicide or nautical misadventure, Bowers inspired a movie myth even as he sank beneath the credits. 51. Gail Russell, 1924 to 1961. The shy star of Angel and the Badman was discovered in a pen-littered Los Angeles apartment, surrounded by empty vodka bottles and paintbrushes. She turned to oils when casting calls dried up. Official cause was liver failure, complicated by acute alcohol intoxication. Yet a neighbor swore she heard an argument hours earlier. Police noted no forced entry, but Russell's bruised wrists still trigger theories of violence the coroner missed in his rush to label natural causes. 52. Eric Fleming, 1925 to 1966. Filming High Jungle on Peru's Huallaga River, the Rawhide Trail boss boarded a dugout canoe for an establishing shot. A sudden current flipped the craft. Crew rescued his co-star, but Fleming vanished beneath piranha-filled rapids. Locals blamed a whirlpool known to seasoned guides. Skeptics whispered of a sabotaged camera boat whose prop wash upended him. Without a body to autopsy, only a shoe and clapperboard washed ashore, the Amazon kept its reason, along with Fleming's last line. 53rd. Bob Crane, 1928 to 1978. Television's genial Colonel Hogan was found bludgeoned by a camera tripod in his Scottsdale condo, an electrical cord cinched round his neck like a grotesque bow tie. Arizona police focused on video equipment salesman John Henry Carpenter, Crane's partner in homemade sex tapes, but blood smears proved too degraded for 1970s lab work. Carpenter walked, the murder weapon disappeared, and every newly digitized frame of Crane's private reels spawns fresh speculation about a killer hidden behind the lens. 54. Pete Duell, 1940 to 1971. On New Year's Eve, the Alias Smith and Jones star excused himself from a living room rerun, walked to his bedroom, and a single. Shot followed. Girlfriend Diane Ray found him slumped by the Christmas tree, revolver dangling upside down. Coroners ruled suicide amid depression and a recent DUI, yet friends argue the angle of entry, a downward arc behind the right ear, suggests the gun slipped while he drunkenly practiced theatrical Russian roulette he'd joked about on set. 55. Maria Montez, 1912 to 1951. The Technicolor Cobra woman drew a bath in her Paris villa, then suffered what doctors called a massive coronary, and drowned. Her maid reported Montez took diet pills and sedatives to maintain Jungle Queen curves, but pill counts vanished before police arrived. With no autopsy, Catholic relatives forbade it. Rumors persist that she mixed a champagne flute of barbiturates for a staged sleep and misjudged the dose, turning boudoir theater into fatal immersion. 56. Sabu Dastagir, 1924 to 1963. Hollywood's original Elephant Boy dropped dead in Chatsworth after complaining of chest pain. An autopsy cited a rare coronary thrombosis, uncommon in 39-year-olds. Gossip magazines hinted at amphetamine injections tied to a planned boxing picture that never materialized. Others blamed a genetic cholesterol disorder glossed over during wartime service with the U.S. Air Force. Lacking toxicology and with studio insurance already paid, his unexpected exit remains as swift and unresolved as a tiger's pounce. 57th. Belinda Lee, 1935 to 1961. Racing along Italy's Autostrada del Sole in a hired Fiat, Lee's producer boyfriend lost control, sending the car airborne. She was hurled through the windshield, her signature platinum wig found yards away. Officials blamed a burst tire, yet a truck driver swore the Fiat's rear wheel was wobbling miles earlier, hinting at loose lug nuts. Whether sabotage, speed, or simple blowout, the crash ended. Rank Studios' one-time British Brigitte Bardot at 25. 58th. Montgomery Clift, 1920 to 1966. Labeled the longest suicide in Hollywood, Clift died of a 4 a.m. heart attack while watching The Misfits alone in New York. Friends saw a man finally sober. Pills found were prescriptions for chronic pain, not narcotics. Critics still tie his death to lingering facial injuries from a 1956 car wreck and clandestine struggles over sexuality. Cardiac scarring proved real, but whether forged by vodka, morphine, or blacklists of the heart remains interpretive. 59. Clara Blandick, 1876 to 1962. Auntie M neatly arranged press clippings, donned her best gown, swallowed Seconal, and secured a plastic bag over her head. Her farewell letter thanked friends, but lamented unbearable pain from crippling arthritis. Some biographers, noting fresh morphine refills left untouched, suspect she staged an elegant exit before advancing glaucoma stole her sight and career. Police closed the file as textbook suicide, yet the surgical orderliness continues to inspire whispers of someone assisting behind the curtain. 60. Margaret Sullivan, 1909 to 1960. Holiday guests found Sullivan unconscious in a New Haven hotel room, an emptied Nembutal vial on the nightstand. Doctors noted a chronic ear disorder causing vertigo and insomnia, fueling the possibility of accidental overdose. Yet her divorce papers lay unsigned in her suitcase, and a therapist reported deepening depression over fading roles. With blood tests contaminated in transit, no one can definitively say whether the shop around the corner star turned the key or merely miscounted the pills. 61. Judy Tyler, 1932 to 1957. Fresh from rapping Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock, Tyler and her husband sped through Wyoming when their station wagon veered into a truck that had missed a stop sign. Witnesses claimed she wrestled the wheel from a drowsy spouse moments before impact, choosing death over a head-on collision with another car of teens. Highway Patrol logged only driver fatigue, leaving the darker, self-sacrificial narrative to linger in roadside lore. 62. Barbara Colby, 1939 to 1975. After teaching an acting class in Venice, California, Colby and colleague James Kiernan were gunned down by two men who uttered not a word and stole nothing. Colby died instantly, Kiernan lived long enough to say he recognized neither assailant. LAPD floated gang initiation, yet the .38 slugs didn't match local crime patterns. 40-plus years on, the file sits labeled cold, its evidence locker holding an actress's unfinished lesson plan and 2 phantom fingerprints. 63. Charles Butterworth, 1896 to 1946. Known for quips in 1930s comedies, Butterworth crashed his convertible into a lamppost on Sunset Boulevard during a midnight rainstorm. Tests showed no alcohol, but skid marks suggested brakes failed at the downhill curve. Mechanics later found the fluid line severed by a sharp, deliberate slice. Police chalked it up to post-impact debris, ignoring Butterworth's recent satirical radio jabs at a notorious union boss. Whether coincidence or payback, the comedian's last punchline went unsaid. 64 olive borden, 1906, 1947. The one-time Joy Girl of Fox Pictures died penniless in a Los Angeles mission hospital, officially of stomach peritonitis, brought on by malnutrition and booze. Nurses recorded bruises inconsistent with falls, but LAPD dismissed further inquiry, citing her transient status. Friends insist Borden had been rehearsing a comeback screen test, implying foul play or a botched back alley surgery. Her unmarked grave became a silent warning about Hollywood's talent for amnesia. 65. John Garfield, 1913 to 1952. Blacklisted and sleepless, Garfield played tennis against doctor's orders, then collapsed in a lover's Manhattan apartment. The coroner listed coronary thrombosis, yet bedside pill bottles vanished before police arrived. HUAC investigators quietly dropped perjury plans the next day, sparking whispers of covert, stress-induced poisoning, or of political pressure hastening an overtaxed heart. His funeral drew 10,000 mourners, none of whom received a satisfactory third-act revelation. 66. James Whale, 1889 to 1957. Director of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, was found floating in his Hollywood pool. A suicide note spoke of the intolerable dullness of life. Decades later, biographer David Lewis hinted he'd hidden the note and staged the scene to spare Whale's reputation. Some water in the lungs suggested he was alive upon entry, contradicting the blunt force stroke he'd suffered. Whether self-chosen tragedy or misguided mercy-killing, the monster's maker exited amid appropriately murky lighting. Altaia Giascala, 1000 og 93 til 1972. The Guns of Navarone Beauty was located in her Hollywood Hills bedroom, blood-flecked vomit on satin pillows, toxicology reading lethal alcohol and chloral hydrate. LAPD labeled it accidental, but friends noted facial bruising and a broken fingernail as if she'd fought someone. A neighbor reported a sports car peeling away hours earlier. Plates were never traced. Studio gossip sites still debate whether Scala's final close-up was self-directed or forced off camera. 68th. Tom Pittman, 1932 to 1958. A Halloween joyride in a Porsche Spyder, eerie twin to James Dean's, ended when Pittman missed Mulholland Drive's Dead Man Curve and disappeared. Police found the wreckage 3 weeks later in a ravine beneath a billboard for Career. Steering column gouges indicated the brakes failed, yet mechanics who'd serviced the car claimed they were intact. The prolonged search and macabre vehicle echo forged legends of a little bastard curse, claiming another rising rebel. 69. Susan Cabot, 1927 to 1986. Cult horror queen Cabot was bludgeoned in her Encino bedroom with a barbell by her son Timothy, who told police ninja dwarfs had burst in. A judge deemed him psychotic, noting experimental pituitary treatments for dwarfism that involved secret hormone injections Cabot procured. Some tabloids alleged CIA mind control trials. Others cited years of mutual paranoia. The homicide stands technically solved, Yet its Frankenstein tangle of medical ethics and Hollywood eccentricity resists tidy categorization. Settantesimo, Vic Morrow, 1929, 1982. During a night shoot for Twilight Zone, the movie, a pyrotechnic blast tilted a hovering helicopter, whose rotor sliced through Morrow and two child actors in a shallow riverbed. Investigators cited overloaded explosives and ignored safety memos. Director John Landis beat manslaughter charges, but testimonies revealed studio executives accelerated the schedule to dodge overtime. Morrow's final scream, cut from the film, became Exhibit A in debates that rewrote on-set stunt regulations worldwide. 71. Carol Wayne, 1942 to 1985. Johnny Carson's favorite matinee lady stormed from a Mexican resort after quarreling with a wealthy companion, went for a beach walk, and was found 3 days later face down in 4 feet of water. Autopsy showed barely any alcohol, no drugs, and a heart free of disease. Mexican police called it accidental drowning, yet bruises on shins and a missing purse suggest robbery or worse. The companion passed a polygraph, though not, critics say, the smell test. 72. Peggy Castle, 1927 to 1973. Western series Siren Castle faded into local theater and liquor, dying in her Hollywood apartment from acute hepatitis compounded by barbiturates. Whether the overdose was deliberate remains uncertain. Friends cite audition calls penciled on her calendar for the following week, while her ex-husband produced letters describing 10 years of darkness. With no suicide note and blood samples discarded after 30 days, the truth is as blurred as reruns of Lawman on late-night cable. 73. Françoise d'Orléac, 1942 to 1967. Racing to catch a flight at Nice Airport, Catherine Deneuve's elder sister lost control of her rented Renault, which flipped and burst into flames. Witnesses saw her struggle with a jammed seatbelt while doors automatically locked, a controversial new feature in French cars. Some engineers blamed leaking brake fluid that left no skid marks. The wreck charred so completely that investigators could only hypothesize, leaving a dazzling career reduced to ashes and conjecture. 74. Carol Leslie, 1936 to 1974. Touted as Britain's answer to Marilyn, Leslie spiraled after the rank organization dropped her, retreating to a suburban bungalow filled with scrapbooks of past premieres. A neighbor smelled gas. Firefighters found her clutching clippings, pills scattered like confetti. The coroner cited barbiturate overdose, self-administered, but her diary ended mid-sentence about a promised BBC interview. Whether intention or catastrophic miscalculation of downers remains another grain in Hollywood's hourglass of would-be comebacks. 75. Dorothy Dell, 1915 to 1934. After securing a breakout role opposite Shirley Temple, Dell accepted a late-night steakhouse lift from socialite Bernard Samuels. Their car hit a culvert at 70 miles per hour and disintegrated. Rumors swirled that jealous heiress Lydia Throckmorton, also vying for Samuel's attention, had spiked his drink or tampered with tires. Police found no evidence, blaming speed and unlit rural roads. Dell's ashes rested in a bronze urn that, fittingly, bore no credits. Only the brief dates of a stardom abruptly fade out. 76. Frances Farmer, 1913 to 1970. Once hailed as the next Garbo, Farmer spent years ping-ponging between sound stages and sanitariums. On August 1st, she was found lifeless in an Indianapolis apartment, throat full of seconal residue, death-ruled esophageal hemorrhage. Former nurses claimed she'd undergone an ice pick lobotomy in the 1940s, a charge hospitals deny yet never document. Whether pills, alcoholism, or experimental surgery finally stilled her fire, Farmer's last close-up fades into medical files no one can straighten. 77. Steve Cochran, 1917 to 1965. 3 Mexican fishermen spotted Cochran's drifting yacht, its sails slack. 3 stunned actresses aboard. The star of White Heat lay on a bunk, pants soaked in lung fluid. Autopsy blamed an acute infection that filled his chest overnight. Yet rumors swirl of smuggled amphetamines and rough seas masking foul play. Passport stamps suggest an unscheduled stop at a Sinaloa port the night before, freezing his legacy between tropical postcard and crime noir page. 78. Martha Mansfield, 1899 to 1923. Filming a Civil War epic in San Antonio, Mansfield stepped off set, still wearing her hoop skirt costume. A spectator's cigarette ignited the muslin. Within seconds, she became a living torch. Co-star Wilfrid Lytell ripped off the dress, but suffered burns himself. Doctors cited shock, yet investigators never identified the smoker, triggering gossip that a jealous extra or rejected suitor flicked the match. Her death turned studios from open flames to strictly policed no-smoking zones. 79. Ted Healy, 1896 to 1937. Creator of The Three Stooges, staggered from a Sunset Strip nightclub with a split skull and kidney damage, dying hours later. Friends named MGM tough guy Wallace Beery and a politically connected playboy in the brawl. A swift coroner's report called it acute alcoholic nephritis, sidestepping autopsy photos of boot prints. Studio fixer Eddie Mannix hushed papers. Beery sailed for Europe, and Healy's last pratfall blurred into a studio's most convenient blackout. 80. David Bacon, 1914 to 1943. Fresh off The Masked Marvel, Bacon crashed his crimson Delage into a Venice bean field, staggering out shirtless with a knife buried in his back. Police found no wallet, only studio keys and a map to an unbuilt house. Rumors tied him to Howard Hughes and a jealous lover, yet the blade bore no fingerprints. With wartime headlines drowning the case, Bacon's murder sank, leaving just a B-movie hero frozen in a real-life cliffhanger. 81st. Karen Kupchinet, 1941 to 1963. Days after accusing a stalker of phone pranks, the 22-year-old actress was found strangled in West Hollywood, a prescription bottle perched like punctuation. Friends suspected an ex-boyfriend. Conspiracy buffs linked her police officer father to JFK assassination secrets whispered 6 days earlier. The pathologist logged petechial hemorrhages, but no defensive wounds. Without fingerprints or forced entry, Kupchinet's silent apartment became a labyrinth for theorists who rearrange furniture but never find the exit. 82. Pierre Angeli, 1932 to 1971. James Dean's one-time fiancée was discovered in her Beverly Hills flat, rosary in hand, empty Seconal capsules on the dresser. Officially suicide, yet Angeli's diary brimmed with holiday plans and a new Italian film contract. Friends cited chronic ulcer pain and insomnia. Others think she miscounted tablets after champagne. Italian tabloids still insist Dean's death anniversary, just 6 weeks prior, rekindled grief potent enough to script her final scene. 83. Anissa Jones, 1958 to 1976. Buffy, a family affair, never made adulthood. She died at 18 during a beach house sleepover. Blood stew of cocaine, PCP, and Seconal. Investigators found cash and a doctor's blank script pad in her purse, implicating the same physician later jailed for celebrity pill mills. Whether accidental, self-destructive, or medical exploitation, Jones's demise exposed a pediatric corridor to Hollywood's pharmaceutical backstage. 84. Elvis Presley, 1935 to 1977. The king collapsed in Graceland's bathroom, coroner citing cardiac arrhythmia, but toxicology listed 14 pharmaceuticals, from codeine to ethinamate, staggering enough to fell a smaller man. Debate rages between congenital bowel disease and lethal polypharmacy, administered by Dr. Nick George Nicopolis. Autopsy photos, sealed until 2027, leave room for sightings in gas stations and tabloid UFOs. proving some stars can't exit without an encore. 85th. Krista Helm, 1949 to 1977, B-movie siren. Helm kept a diary grading her Hollywood lovers, actors, athletes, even a diplomatic envoy. She was stabbed and bludgeoned outside a West Hollywood townhouse. The diary and audio cassettes vanished. Detectives eyed jealous boyfriends and foreign agents, but lost momentum when evidence rooms moved buildings. Helm's unfinished Rolodex of secrets remains a seductive MacGuffin. Every time new names surface, fingerprints seem to wipe themselves. 86. Dorothy Stratton, 1960 to 1980. Playmate turned actress Stratton was shotgunned by estranged husband Paul Snyder, who then killed himself. Open and shut, yet private investigators argue Snyder had an accomplice. His phone records list calls to an unknown Hollywood producer minutes before the murder. Crime scene photos show 2 cup impressions in fresh coffee, suggesting a silent witness. Whether lone obsession or triangulated greed, Stratton's death fused noir cynicism to a pastel 1980 and still frames there. 87. John Belushi, 1949 to 1982. The comic whirlwind injected a final speedball at LA's Chateau Marmont, but questions swirl about who plunged the needle. Groupie Kathy Smith confessed, served time, then hinted at a powerful third man supplying purer heroin that night. Surveillance tapes were recorded over, toxicology samples destroyed after appeal. Belushi's tombstone reads, "I may be gone," and so too may the only film that could roll back the sweet door credits. Ottantotesimo, Dominique Dunne, 1959 Decato du. Weeks after Poltergeist premiered, Dunne's ex-boyfriend strangled her in her driveway. Paramedics revived a pulse, but she died 5 days later. A jury convicted the killer of manslaughter, 6 years, prompting claims the defense framed Dunne's career focus as provocation. The light sentence fueled rumors of influential family ties and left the actress posthumously cast as cautionary tale. Hollywood's scream could not outshout jurisprudence. 89. Roy Kinnear, 1934 to 1988. While filming The Return of the Musketeers in Toledo, Kinnear fell from a horse on a slippery cobblestone bridge, breaking his pelvis and rupturing an artery. Survivors insist the producer cut rehearsal days to save money, ignoring stunt coordinator pleas for rubberized horseshoes. Spanish authorities labeled it accident, yet lawsuits settled quietly. Kinnear's widow later said the true cause wasn't a horse, it was a schedule, 90. Rebecca Schaefer, 1967 to 1989. A fan-turned-stalker obtained her address through DMV records, rang her doorbell, and shot the 21-year-old point blank. The assailant surrendered, but speculation arose that Schaefer's anti-pistol permit advocacy spurred political motives. Her murder transformed privacy laws and Hollywood security, yet the unanswered question lingers. Would a thicker studio firewall, or merely a misdelivered letter, have diverted obsession? 91. Heather O'Rourke, 1975 to 1988. The cherubic Poltergeist star died of septic shock after doctors misread severe intestinal stenosis as flu. Conspiracy theorists cite a franchise curse, pointing to co-star deaths and on-set skeleton props. Hospital records reveal a lab test delay that cost crucial hours, but no malpractice suit ever reached court. Whether misdiagnosis, occult mishap, or coincidence, O'Rourke's whispered, "They're here," now chills more than the screenplay intended. 92. Brandon Lee, 1965 to 1993. During The Crow, a .44 slug pierced Lee's abdomen, an inert bullet tip lodged in the barrel, propelled by a blank's wadding. Crew blamed low-budget shortcuts, missing firearms expert, and a schedule that pushed past midnight. Rumors add triad revenge for Father Bruce Lee's debts or a studio insurance scam. The criminal probe ended with a fine, leaving a cut-rate safety culture headline as the film's last unedited frame. 93. River Phoenix, Nitten City till Nitten Nittetre. Outside Johnny Depp's Viper Room, Phoenix convulsed on the sidewalk, toxicology reading speedball of cocaine and heroin plus Valium. Friends claim a stranger handed him a drink. Others cite an 8-day no-sleep recording binge. Missing from police files, a pager Phoenix carried that stored cryptic numeric codes. Never located. His death certificate closed the case, but a generation still rewinds footage, hoping to spot the phantom bartender. 94, Jan Erik Hexum, 1957 till 1985. Bored between takes on Cover-Up, Hexum play-acted Russian roulette with a blank-loaded .44, pressing the muzzle to his temple. The wadding drove bone splinters into his brain, proving blanks aren't blank. Insurance investigators examined whether a live round had been swapped as a prank. None found. Hexum's donation of organs saved 5 people, yet rumors that a jealous crew member tampered linger like an uncollected prop shell. 95th. Dana Plato, 1964 to 1999. The former Different Strokes star died in her motorhome after swallowing vanadyl sulfate, Vicodin, and Valium. Hours earlier, she defended her sobriety on a Florida radio show. Some fans cite carbon monoxide leaks from the generator. Others note earnings from an adult video, due days later, that could jeopardize adoption of her son. With autopsy citing possible accidental overdose, Plato's final exit sign points both to mischance and despair. 96. Brian Keith, 1921 to 1997. Months after daughter Daisy's suicide and days after a lung cancer diagnosis, the family affair patriarch shot himself in his Malibu home. Yet neighbors reported seeing an unknown visitor leave minutes before, and the revolver bore only a partial palm print. Police dismissed foul play, but family disputes over royalties fanned speculation someone delivered grim persuasion. Keith's ashes were scattered at sea, taking any clearer evidence into Pacific opacity. 97. Jonathan Brandis, 1976 to 2003. The Sequest teen heartthrob was found hanging in his L.A. apartment. Friends claimed he'd been despondent over scenes cut from Heart's War. 2 unplayed voicemail messages were erased before detectives arrived, and a mysterious final call pinged a deactivated number belonging to a child talent agent under investigation. Ruling suicide. Remaining mystery: who, if anyone, answered that last client call when Brandis was already gone? 98. Phil Hartman, 1948 to 1998. Beloved comic Hartman was shot twice by wife Bryn as he slept. After confessing to friends, she turned the gun on herself when police arrived. Autopsy showed cocaine and Zoloft in her system. Lawsuits alleged the antidepressant induced violent impulses, pushing Pfizer to settle quietly. Some relatives point to an earlier burglary where the murder weapon was stolen and returned unexplained. An airtight tragedy still has a key floating somewhere. 99. Brittany Murphy, 1977 to 2009. The clueless ingenue collapsed in her Hollywood Hills bathroom, coroner citing pneumonia, anemia, and multiple medications. 5 months later, husband Simon Monjack died with similar findings, amplifying mold infestation theories. Independent labs detected elevated heavy metal levels, yet parents split over whether poison or poor housekeeping was to blame. Without official exhumation, the case remains a choose-your-own cautionary tale of household neglect, or something more scripted. Ston Anton Yelchin, 1989–2016. After parking on a steep driveway, the Star Trek actor was crushed against a gate by his rolling Jeep Grand Cherokee. Chrysler later recalled models for gear shift confusion, but Yelchin's VIN was serviced months earlier. Investigators found the car in neutral, yet neighbors heard no engine as it rolled, suggesting the transmission popped out of park after shutdown. Lawsuits settled, But a Starfleet ensign's fate still circles in legal orbit. 101. Halina Hutchins, 1979–2021. Cinematographer Hutchins was rehearsing a shot on the Western Rust when Alec Baldwin's Colt revolver discharged a live round, killing her and wounding the director. Armorer records showed missing dummy rounds and a chain of custody gap during lunch. Investigations exposed cost-cutting on weapons training and prior misfires that day. Criminal charges volley among producers, armorer, and actor. Until verdicts land, Hutchins's name frames an industry reckoning every bit as stark as a desert backdrop.